Welcome to What the World Needs Now, sponsored by Harmony Academy from National University. In this episode, Tom and Josh talk with Val Alves, who shares her inspiring journey as an English teacher in Brazil. She discusses the importance of empathy, tolerance, and innovative teaching methods. She also reflects on her experiences as a cancer survivor and how it has shaped her perspective on education. Val emphasizes the need for social equality in education and the role of language in fostering intercultural understanding.
All right, welcome to What the World Needs Now, the podcast where we explore education through the voices of inspiring teachers from around the globe. In each episode, we dive into ideas, stories, and practices that are shaping classrooms and changing lives. And today, we are honored to be able to sit down with Val and have an awesome conversation from Brazil. So, Val, for people who don't happen to know your story or who you are, give us an elevator pitch. Who are you? Where are you from? And what's your role in education?
So my name is Val, but you can call me just Val. I'm from Brazil. I am from a city called São Paulo in the southern of Brazil. I am an English teacher here. I work for a municipal school. I teach students from the first to the sixth grade. So first, second, third. Yeah, I have more than 300 students. And so I am an English teacher. And this year I was also invited to take part in a collaborative curriculum design group from our education system here from São Paulo city. And this was a very enriching experience because I had the chance to connect with other teachers from my district, from other districts. And we got together with an advisor, an external advisor that is a university researcher to discuss the principles and guidelines of our curriculum, to update our curriculum. And yes, that's my role in education, and that's a little bit about me.
You do a lot of things, Val. And one thing that I absolutely find incredible is that you wrote a book about how to teach English. And in that book, you talk about using music. In that book, you talk about other ways to get students to really buy into and learn English. What made you want to write that book?
I think first of all, what happens in Brazil is that we study English actually as a foreign language because we don't have English like as a second language, is as a foreign language. And as we have just one language in Brazil, if we speak Portuguese in Brazil, you can travel all over the country and you can communicate with everyone. We are not just like other countries. If we take, for example, India, there we have different cities speaking different languages, so they need English in order to communicate inside the country. Here in Brazil, we don't need that. So maybe because of that, the English teaching in our educational system has always been a failure, especially when it comes to regular public schools. And then I think 2 years ago, I was invited to participate in a program because there is a TV program in Brazil. It's a public TV program called Culture TV, TV Cultura. And they have a kind of partnership with our educational system, our municipal educational system, where they record some classes, good classes, to broadcast in the program. And then I was invited to take part in this project, and they recorded some classes of mine for this program, and they recorded some other colleagues of mine. And then I started thinking, oh my goodness, we don't have only failure when it comes about teaching English in public schools. We also have stories of success. Why not reunite these professionals and write in a book about these practices so we can show the society, we can show people, we can show the family, we can show other professionals that yes, that is possible to learn English inside a public school in Brazil. And then I started working, and it was amazing because it happened to, I discovered cancer just while I was thinking about that. But even though I had this like bad news, I didn't stop. I worked hard, like to reunite, to get together these professionals. And then we wrote a book. This book was released now in December, and it was amazing, amazing, really. Thank you, Tom, for mentioning that. Thank you so much.
Val, you mentioned that you're a cancer survivor. Congratulations on that. Could you tell us a little bit about how that experience maybe changed your life at work, or did it at all?
It's really intriguing and interesting because when I was doing like chemo, during the first days after each session, I felt like, my goodness, why am I trying to do something like writing books? Why do I want to be a good teacher? Everything is worthless. I don't, I it just after this, after overcoming this process, I just want to be to school and I just be a really ordinary teacher. Why do I want to do that? Why do I? But just after like 7 days and 10 days and that I recover my strength, I was there calling to people and just saying, oh, let's go, let's join me, let's write a book. And it was so interesting because I thought that maybe this disease was going to beat me, but it didn't. I think it made me even stronger. you know Today I feel more like doing more things and like trying to inspire other teachers and trying to inspire other people who that maybe are going through this disease or going through any other dreadful moment. And I think now I am a stronger person, stronger than before.
Val, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your strength and your passion and your inspiration. I find it absolutely incredible that not only are you strong in the academic sense, but also in your personal life. I thank you so much for just being open with your journey and honest with your journey. If we could go back a little bit in your journey, what made you want to be a teacher? How did you end up in the classroom in Brazil?
This is so intriguing, really intriguing, because I usually say that I end up being a teacher kind of an accident because just when I was about to start university, the only thing I was sure about is that I didn't want a job, a 9 to 5 job. I didn't want to study something that will lead me to a company and stay there the whole day. And then I thought of being a dentist, but then I was really scared of blood. And then I thought, no, it's not possible because how can I be a dentist if I am really scared of blood? And as I have always liked like literature, languages, I love reading. I thought, I think maybe education can be a good choice because you have more flexible hours, and I love reading, I love literature, and then I was university. But being an English teacher was like my last option because at that time I went to be a literature teacher. Maybe I would like to study applied linguistic, semiotic. But then when I finished school, I started working in language schools where people here in Brazil go to really learn English. And I really started to love this profession. And after that time, I started really working in regular school. 2017, I started working in regular public school. And today is really incredible how I feel fulfilled, how I feel accomplished, how I feel happy doing what I do. I am a really passionate teacher. I love the language. I love speaking English. You have no idea when I walk here in the street in São Paulo and I see other like foreigners and I realize that they speak English. I just approach them and start asking them, where are you from? How long have you been here? I love this language. I love teaching English. That's me.
Well, Val, I know that Tom said this, but I just wanted to echo, thank you so much for sharing your story. Your enthusiasm and love for teaching and life are coming straight through the screen for us. Back in 2020, when Tom and I started interviewing teachers, part of it was because our sparks were dwindling and we needed somebody to help relight our flame in education. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. And so again, we just want to say thank you for being vulnerable and being out there with us and sharing your experiences. Tom and I first started this podcast back in 2020 when COVID happened and schools were being shut down, and we felt our light was starting to diminish. And at least for me, I wasn't sure that education was going to be the path that I wanted to continue to go down. So we just started talking to teachers and trying to get ourselves inspired. And that's what you're doing, being here and sharing your stories with us, is inspiring us and helping us. So we want to thank you for that. And then my question that went along with what you were talking about in terms of English and being able to communicate with people. I don't know two languages. And so my question is just what importance do you see of bilingual, trilingual, multilingual individuals in society? So maybe not even just on the academic side, but just in the world as a whole. What's the importance of people learning new languages? And how do you see that impact you, your students, and your
Well,
community?
yeah. This is really important, and I think this has to do with another question that you probably are going to ask me today. Because I think in this world where we live now, this is multicultural, where we have to develop empathy to other people. Learning a second or third language, it's really crucial, not only in order for us to communicate to other people, not only because of the language themselves, but especially because of this exchange, this interculturality that we can exchange nowadays. I usually say that I think when we learn more about other people's cultures, when we know more about other people's religions, way of lives, more empathy we develop. And the other way around is also true. And another thing that I think is really important, because I think the more I know the other person, more it helps me to know myself, my own culture. One aspect that we discuss a lot here inside our curriculum in our city has to do with learning language as a communication tool and learning language as with the perspective in this interculturality. It's the importance of knowing the other person, of knowing the other person habits and religions in order to develop empathy. The world nowadays needs more empathy, tolerance. We need to learn how to live with the difference. And this is not easy. When I say about tolerance, empathy, I'm not only telling that to other people, I'm telling that to myself, because I think being more tolerant is something that we have to practice. It's something that we have to practice every day. If the other person thinks in a different way that I think, that's okay. It is not a problem. If the other person has a different gender, a different culture, a different way of dressing, that's okay. We know we to learn how to develop more empathy and tolerance. So not only because of the language themselves.
I think that's absolutely amazing. Absolutely love what you're saying about intercultural instead of multicultural, because that word, that simple shift of multicultural to intercultural brings up, in my opinion, this sense of needing each other, depending on each other. And in our global society, in our world, we really do need to learn to depend on each other. And what you're saying is so true. Just because we may have differences, it does not mean I can't understand where you're coming from or your point of view. It doesn't make you wrong or me right or me wrong or you right. I think that's so true when you talk about learning the skill of empathy. And one thing that Josh and I both love to use to teach empathy is a curriculum from Harmony Academy through National University that really does a good job of teaching elementary students what empathy is and how to use empathy in our daily lives. I'm really curious about this next one, Val. You clearly speak English fluently. Speak Portuguese. How many other languages do you speak?
Really wish I could speak more languages, but I only speak Portuguese, of course, and English. I used to say in the past, that I spoke a little bit of Spanish, but then I traveled to Uruguay, Argentina, and I were not able to understand them, and they were not to understand me. So I stopped saying that I speak a little bit of Spanish because I don't. But I really wish I could speak French.
Val, I also liked what you were talking about with intercultural understanding. And Tom, I love that you mentioned the shift in the prefix there, just from saying multi to inter, because it also encourages inclusion. Like you were, Val, it challenges stereotypes and discrimination, and it helps us create a more inclusive and fair environment for society, for our kids to grow into. Val, you've had some mountains and some valleys throughout your career. We've got a lot of listeners that are new into the field of education. What advice would you have for them as they get ready to embark on such an amazing career choice? Do you have any books or ways that they can continue to stay inspired, or if they feel that we're in the middle of the year here in America, if they're just feeling kind of burnt down, maybe to help get over that midway hump? Any advice for them?
I think I'll quote a great educator we had in Brazil. I don't know if you've heard of him. It's Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire was such a great educator. And once he said, when a teacher stops learning, this teacher stops being a teacher. So I think my advice for those who are in this field, because I can't tell these people you have to be passionate, you have to love what you are doing, because I love what I do. I am a very passionate person, but I can't tell them to love, and because sometimes they are there because they need money in any other profession. But what I can tell them, I think one thing that they really need to keep doing is keep learning. You need to keep learning, because when you learn, I think it's where you can get together with other professionals, and then you can exchange experiences. You can exchange like sufferings, pains, and together, when you share all these, not only good experiences, but our fear, when we share that, we can like be stronger together. So I think my advice is keep learning, keep getting together with other peers, other educators, exchange experiences. Yeah, I think that is my best advice.
Val, what you're saying is so refreshing because sometimes I think as educators, you fall into one of two camps or one of two positions. One is we only talk positive about education and we only look at the positives in education, or perhaps we know education is difficult and hard and we dwell on the negatives. And what you're saying is you can do both at the same time. And in order to be a whole successful individual, yes, you have to acknowledge the fears. I love that you brought in the fears. We have to talk about what we're afraid of. We have to talk about our hardships and our pains in education and acknowledge them for pains and hardships. And we also have to celebrate the positives. Val, that's so refreshing to hear you talk about the need for acknowledging the whole of being an educator and not just staying positive all the time. Thank you so much for that. My next question is this. We're in Nebraska, which is right in the central part of the United States. There are no oceans or mountains around us. We get outside and we hike a little bit here and there. What is life like in Brazil?
Thank you for asking that. Brazil is such an intriguing country because it's so beautiful, has a really wonderful nature, and but at the same time we have such a great social inequality. But when you ask me this question, I would say, what Brazil are you asking about? Because I would answer easily that, oh, we love beaches. That would be the easiest answer. Oh, we love beaches. So, especially now that it's really hot here, São Paulo is going through a very, I wouldn't say that is unseasonably, but it's because summer has just started, but it's really hot, it's burning. But if I say that, it's not really true because I have students that we are in São Paulo, we are São Paulo City, we are just 40 kilometers from the beach. But I have many students who have never been to the beach. Do you believe it? So for those who can afford it, yeah, the beaches. We love beaches. São Paulo. Actually, I think almost all states in Brazil they have beaches. Some of them don't, but even those countries, the state where I was born don't border beaches. That is Minas Gerais. But almost like we have a really extensive line coast. But unfortunately, Brazil has a very, very high social inequality. But I would say that beaches, yeah, it's the what we love the most.
Val, is there anything else that you want to tell us about Brazil or about your work with English, the power of using music or anything else to get students to appreciate learning English and make them more passionate about it?
Yeah, I think that is something I would like to tell you that because I'm talking about most about bad things. I'm saying that because I don't believe only education can save the world. I think we need more actions. For instance, if I have a kid inside my classroom that has a toothache, that is malnourished, that like this person won't learn like effectively. So that's why I like to mention the social inequality in Brazil because it's really a big problem. But I would like to tell you something really good that happened now in December, that São Paulo City Hall won Guinness World Records for the largest municipal food security program. So, yeah, and we are talking about really healthy food. So, more than 3 million meals are served in our municipal schools every day. We have nutritionists working that go to schools and, like to supervise the food, and this is fantastic, really fantastic. And another thing that I would like to say that I would like to invite you, because in the book I wrote about the project. I like to work with different projects to inspire my students. Why I try to do that? Because maybe 95% of our students in my school, for instance, they come from favelas, from slums, and many times they don't see the importance of education. Even though we tell them, okay, education is really important, you have to study, you have to speak another language in order to have a better job. But the problem is their parents studied in the same school, their grandparents studied in the same school, and education didn't change their lives because they still live in the same place you know so it's really sometimes it's really difficult to convince them that education is important. So that's why I try to work with different projects. I try to inspire them, to engage them. And one project that I started this year is teaching English beyond the classroom walls. That's a project that I connect them via Zoom, like us, like what we are doing now, with other teachers and students from other countries, so they can experiment this English, the real English, not only the English from the course book, if you understand me.
Mm.
And
Yeah, and I think
I would like to invite you maybe for next year so we can have this interaction.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome. And what you're talking about is so important because the nuances that there are in education, I think sometimes people outside of schools don't quite understand that there's so many things that go into helping a student, from the meals that are provided, but also from the way that families view education. And Tom and I often have these talks about how do we get families more involved to understand they want what's best, we want what's best, and we have to come together and figure out how we do that as a team.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I just would like to congratulate you because I've been watching some videos of yours, and I could realize how your view on education, like trying to humanize education, how it has to do with our principles here in São Paulo, this kind of humanizing, looking at the students, and, like we call here in Brazil integrated education, not only academic skills, but social, emotional, all these aspects are inside our curriculum. Congratulations, guys, really.
Thank you so much. And I hope that educators, at least in the United States, understand that yes, tests are important, yes, assessments are important, but really to move education forward, there has to be the human component and the whole human component, just like you're doing there in Brazil. Val, at the end of every episode, we always ask what the world needs now. And you've already kind of answered that. But if you want to add anything or change anything, what does the world need now?
I would say so many things, but just to put it in a nutshell, I would say that we need more empathy and tolerance, definitely, and more people, more initiatives like this one that you started, guys. Really, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks for
thank
being here,
you.
Val.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us. It was a blessing to be able to hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. We're so thankful and appreciative that you continue to join us on What the World Needs Now. Tom and Josh would like to thank Harmony Academy from National University for making it possible for them to share the stories of incredible educators from across the country and world. Please check out harmony-academy.org to see how Harmony Academy can support you on your journey in education.